Hey there, beautiful souls. I'm Colleen Lockoff.
And I'm Meredy Lockoff.
And welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass, the podcast where two sisters with a passion for spirituality and a touch of sass come together to explore the exciting world of self-improvement.
That's right, Colleen. We embarked on this incredible journey together, diving into different self-improvement techniques, yoga practices, and a whole array of life experiences.
Yeah, and through it all, we've managed to create lives that are abundant, happy, and constantly evolving. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it, Meredy?
You bet, sis. We've got two very different perspectives on life, but that's what makes this podcast so special. I'm all about diving in head first into life's adventures and embracing every challenge with a bit of sass. While Colleen here, she's got her own unique approach.
Yep, that's me. And I'm all about the yoga, mindfulness, and finding my zen. And together we make the perfect balance.
So whether you're looking for some wisdom, a few laughs, or just some heartfelt stories, you're in the right place. We're here to share our personal experiences and insights with you, all while exploring the wild and diverse world of self-improvement.
So grab your headphones and get ready for a fantastic journey with us. Spiritual Sisters with Sass is here to uplift, inspire, and keep it real.
Thanks for tuning in, lovely listeners. Let's dive in.
Spirit and sass. Here we go. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass. We have gotten some interesting feedbacks on our podcast recently, and one of the feedback that we got was about my sister, Lynn, and her bisexuality. So today we decided that was what we were going to dig into and chat about. So we're going to dig into Lynn, and we're going to actually go way back, because I will tell you that even though the first time that she publicly dated a woman was when in the last 10 years? Yeah, 2019. Well,
okay, so within the last 5 years, even, I have known that my sister was bisexual since we were 15 or 16 years old, maybe even earlier. So, Lynn, why don't you tell us when this started for you? First of all, tell us how you knew that this was something you were interested in, or that you knew that you were bisexual. Sometimes I get asked this and I'm like, I don't even know how to say or like when it started or what, but I remember when talking to you, like you weren't surprised. Not at all. No, when you told me that you were seeing a woman, I was like, oh yeah, and what is she like?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't surprised at all.
I remember
where some of our family was really shocked.
Yes, I mean, I'm thinking about my youngest daughter. She's like, what the fuck? Because I was ending an 11-year relationship at the time. And she calls because my partner had called her and said that I was a lesbian and that I had left him for a woman. And he told everybody this story, which it wasn't true. And so my daughter's like, are you a lesbian now? Who is this homewrecker? And I'm like, okay, this doesn't make me a lesbian. Like, this means that I am with a woman. And also, like, are you surprised? Like, I said that to her because over time I had started to express like more outwardly that, I found very masculine presenting women attractive. I remember saying like, oh my God, she's hot, or they're hot. When I would see someone, and nobody really said anything because I wasn't like publicly dating people. But you and I went to a ceremony in the middle of fucking nowhere. And if you remember, we went to a women's circle. And so we were, remember? We were in the women's circle, and there was a person there that I found attractive, very androgynous looking. And I remember coming out of the house that we were in after having a big share And we looked at each other and they said, "Can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was actually going to ask you the same thing." Like that, it was just like a knowing. And so off we went and we just spent hours talking. And it turns out like it was an interesting situation, but this person was transitioning and
And this was on plant medicine, just so that everybody understands. We had just finished plant medicine, and then we had a quick share, and then it was like, go explore
yes.
the earth around you kind of thing. And so then Lynn just kind of disappeared. And during that time, while she was gone, I'm telling these people like, this medicine's not really doing much for me. And then all of a sudden I have this great appreciation for my sister and all the things that she had done for me. And then she comes back and she's with this other person. And she had prior told me, like, I find this person incredibly attractive. I'm not sure what it is about them. And I was like, oh, I can totally see that. Like, I knew that was a thing. So, and then you came back and you told me.
I mean, I remember saying, I just want to go cuddle.
Yeah. Didn't you guys lay down by the water or something and just talk? Like,
yes.
Kind of snuggling, but like on the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I was in a partnership at the time. So I was like very respectful of that fact. And that person and I continued to talk. And we actually talked about, so with my partner at the time, who had experienced several different experiences with different genders, had told me that, like I said, I've always wondered, I just haven't found the person that I want to do that with. And he had said, if you ever do, make sure you explore it, because he had explored it and he found it to be like a part of discovering himself. Right. And that never bothered me. We met, he told me about it immediately. And I remember kind of being jealous about it, but I had never found a woman that I was attracted to enough to actually sleep with because women have vaginas and, that's not what I'm used to.
Now, when I say going back, I'm talking about when we were 15 or 16 years old, though, and you and girls would make out. And people would be like, oh, they're just doing it because they're drunk, or oh, they're just doing it for the attention. And I was like, I don't know that she is, though, because I knew for you that wasn't what it was about. It was actually about exploring that side of yourself.
Well,
it wasn't to get the attention. Well, I didn't think it was about getting the attention.
You say that, and literally I would tell you it was about getting the attention. It was about getting male attention.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what you said, but I could see it wasn't.
Right. That's funny. So I do remember a couple times we went out with our sister-in-law and we were partying. And well, you don't party, but I partied. I remember that night I was getting triple tequila fucking, what is that when you do like Kahlua milk, vodka, and Coke? It's a mudslide, White Russian, a paralyzer. I was getting triple tequila paralyzers in a mini jug. Ugh. I know. Like that was how I partied. And I remember I was up on stage and I was dancing. And then the chick beside me, she said something. She's like, "You're so attractive." I'm like, "Do you want to make out?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so we started making out and then, just kept doing our thing. And we were talking about like, I don't know, fucking around. And then, anyways, it didn't kind of happen. She's like, "I got to talk to my boyfriend and blah, blah, blah." And then I remember my sister-in-law was like, "Did I see you make out with a chick up on stage?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." Like whatever, it's fine. So there were like a lot of those times, but I don't even think I like thought much of it. It was just something that was kind of fun. And if it ever got serious, I'd be like, "No." That's right, I had like a threesome with my husband. I forgot about all of that. Like, as we're sitting, I better add that to my sex inventory. Actually, I'm doing a sex inventory for AA right now for my steps, and I'm like, "Oh, I've got my people on there. I think I've got every one of them." And I'm like, but there's a couple places here and there where I forget, like, "Oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I did that." But it didn't work out the way I wanted to ever. So it was like kissing, and that was about it. Right? Even my threesome. I said something rude about a hairy vagina, and then she was like, "Take me home." And that was like kind of how it went. Like I had, I was
Fair.
young. I was 19. So yeah, so then this is it. My partner at the time gave me the permission to do whatever I want. And I remember he said, just don't tell me. And that didn't feel good because I have a history of cheating on partners. So I was really moving into my spiritual like awakening and being honest and conscious communication and exploring my sexuality. And so I told him, listen, I've met someone and they're not into men at all. But I want to explore, and we've had this conversation about it, but like, will you come and meet them and have dinner? And like, I don't know, like maybe you watch, I don't know what this looks like. And I remember he was like kind of put off by it, and he's like, you're not supposed to tell me. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't feel good. And then to be honest, it didn't work out because we made plans for dinner and then that person canceled last minute. And I had a big thing about flakiness. And so I was like, nope.
Yep.
And just like cut it.
Yep.
And then I met someone who told me later had been like kind of quietly stalking me online for a year and then reached out to me and started talking to me. And I was still with my partner. And we kind of started talking and I was attracted to her. And then it kind of like we talked a bit and then I don't know, I like coached them and they got pretty pissed at me and then we stopped talking. And then we ran a giveaway. And my social media guy messaged me and said, oh, blah, 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 won. I'm going to send them this email. And I was like, oh my God, it was her. And I was like, it's okay, I'll reach out. Funny enough, she thought that I like orchestrated the whole thing, which is not how it happened. But I thought, oh, well, then the universe is directing me to her. So we started
Divine timing.
talking. But my life was also kind of falling apart in my personal life. I was taking my 300-hour teacher training. And for anyone that's taken teacher training, I understand that there's like, it's an incredible like breaking open. And so I'm starting to
Evolution of who
admit,
you are.
yeah, I'm starting to admit that I want to actually like explore with this person. And I don't want to be with my partner of 11 years anymore. And that kind of started there. And then it was an interesting evolution into, because I didn't want to cheat on my partner. And then
And that's fair.
Yeah. And so I had already decided we're done. So I remember going to teacher training and I said to her, I was like, I want to be more than friends. And she's like, okay, we can unpack that. And I said, I have previously cheated and that I don't want that to be how I end this relationship. I've pretty much told him I'm complete because something had happened in which I was really upset with him. And then, yeah, I remember coming home from teacher training and we had made these plans to go see this banjo player at this local place in Chilliwack. And we went, and I remember my partner was quite upset. And I said, I don't understand why you're upset because you had given me permission to do this. And that night he said,
you were broken up by then, were you not?
No, we were still together, but we were talking about breaking up because okay. I hadn't yelled at him since I met him 11 years prior. And I yelled at him. I mean, that was a big fucking deal. Like it was a whole thing anyways. And so I had said like, I'm so fucking sick of this. And then I left basically. And then I came back. We went on this date. I remember she tried to kiss me. I was like, do you want to start a relationship with me cheating on my partner? Because then you're not going to trust me. Okay. So don't do that. Because I really want to. And then I remember I went home and my partner was like, I'm taking it back. And I'm like, you actually don't have the right to do that anymore. Like, I'm done with this, actually. I'm done with you and I'm done with this. And I remember then my daughter was struggling. So I went over to the island and lived with my ex-husband, his girlfriend, my 2 kids, her kid in a 2-bedroom house. I was in the dining room on my daughter's bed. One was here, one was there. We were all living. It wasn't that bad, but like I had taken time away from my partner, and that that's when it ended. And that's when it began with the woman. And I remember
But
telling
also
her,
it didn't begin because she was in Chilliwack and you were on the island. So there was a conversation that began
she came
more
to
so
the
than the
island.
relationship.
She came to the island right before she got a knee replacement. And that's how we started relationship, was with her getting a knee replacement. And then like I'm a nurse. And so it was an interesting, and then I went back and I actually spent a lot of time at her house because we had a breakup, my partner and I, and continued to live in the house for 5 fucking months after our breakup. Because we sold the house, but the conditions were 5 months. So that was fun.
I remember. Yes. And I remember I also was contacted by him with picture. I came down. I came down and you and I went for dinner and we were sitting having dinner and you had just shown me a picture with your phone of said person. And we're like, so I think I'm going to explore this. And I was like, oh yeah. And that's when you were like, you're not surprised. And I was like, why would I be surprised? And you were like, are you upset? And I was like, why would I be upset? And then as you were pulling your phone back, your face changed because that person walked up behind me in the restaurant we were at because he thought you were lying about who you were out for dinner with. He thought that you were out for dinner with her when in fact you had told him, I'm going out for dinner with my sister and I actually don't want you there because I want to talk to my sister. And he walked in and just like made himself comfortable and then continued to be a total dick. And so we actually ate quite quickly and packed up our stuff. And we're like, I said to him, I can't believe you showed up here and I can't believe this is how you're acting. And we packed up our stuff and headed out of there. Did we go back to your place at that point?
No,
or is that when you took me back and introduced me to her?
Yeah, you went and met her.
Yeah, I remember. And that was one of the reasons we had gone for dinner because you were like, I'm not sure if I should, how we're going to play this. And I was like, let's go. I'm down to meet her. Yeah. And we had talked about a few things with it because of course being sisters we talk, like I was like, okay, so have you done the dirty with her? Have you done this? Are you guys, what was it like? How is this experience? Is it what you expected? Because like I said, I've known that my sister was bisexual since we were in high school. I knew that without a doubt that there was this curiosity that she was exploring, even though she told me it was about the male's attention. I could tell there was this curiosity that she was exploring within herself. So when all of this came up for me, it was what it was. It is what it is. This is just who my sister is. And so then, of course, family calls me and I want to say my brother and my sister-in-law called me and were like, what is happening? And I was like, why are you guys even surprised right now? But I guess they just didn't see that side of you. They didn't see or feel like, know that you even had that really in you. And they kind of contributed it to the crazy side of you instead of just part of who you were and exploring yourself.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting thing because there was a lot of judgment from a lot of our family, with acceptance though.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not wrong, because I feel like even though they had their opinions and stuff, also me reiterating to them that like, like this is just who she is. This isn't a phase. This has always been a piece of who she is. Don't judge her for it. Like, I don't understand what's happening with you guys right now. That they kind of looked at themselves and were like, you know what? She's right. It's not like she's just all of a sudden flipped the road. She's running on both sides of the road now. Is essentially what I feel like ended up happening. And I feel like a lot of our family accepted it relatively quickly.
Yeah.
But what a way to come out of the closet in so many ways is to be like, so I'm dating a woman.
Well, unfortunately, the way I was outed was actually by my partner telling everybody that I was a lesbian. Like he literally, because I hear this a lot.
And not in a nice way.
No. People are married and now all of a sudden they're gay.
Yeah. No.
That's not how it works.
Yep.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that just because someone wants to explore a relationship with someone of the same sex, that they don't still like the opposite sex.
Yes.
So, I mean, for me, it was,
Some cases, that's not the case. Some cases, people do,
I've been
you know,
hiding.
they're trying to pretend that, yeah, they pretend they're someone they're not until they just can't take pretending they're someone they're not anymore. Like, and for me, what I've seen from, and now again, I am not, I would say at most I was bi-curious, but I at most, okay, for the most part, I'm a straight blonde girl. That's where I come from. But from what I have seen in the LGBTQ era and people that have come from that, is that they get a choice of living in this uncomfortableness of pretending they're someone they're not, or living in this uncomfortable of living who they actually are. And either road is uncomfortable for them. They're not happy or comfortable in either one, but they're happier to just be themselves and be authentic and be judged, but also to be judged and what's the word I'm looking for? To be judged and picked at for being themselves also is super uncomfortable. So in all honesty, for me, I see some of these things and I'm just like, wow, like which one's harder? It's going to be harder to be not who you are, to me. That would be way harder for me to pretend I'm someone I'm not. Did you feel like there was any place in your life that you felt like you were being someone you weren't because you weren't exploring that side?
No, because I do feel like I was open about it and that it was just about finding the right person. And then finding, I mean, it was her. She was the right person. And she was, I mean, it was perfect. I mean, I'm always worried that she's gonna hear this too, but there's like judgment from other people that I know that know her that say like kind of her thing is getting straight women. So she was, regardless of if that's true or not, she was very gentle and kind. And I remember saying like, "You have a vagina," that scares the fuck out of me. And she was like, you don't
Yep.
have to like stress about it. But then like when the time came, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. This is fine. I've got one of these. I know how to work it. And then after that, that was very freeing. And my experience wasn't one of any picking on or judgment, because even if people were judging, I could fucking care less at that time, because I felt better being authentic. And now I was able to say
Yes.
like, whoa, that person's hot. And then literally the next person I was with is trans.
Yes.
And I didn't know that that would be like, I remember talking to the person I didn't know, and we were having a conversation and they told me they were trans. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that.
And now can we just clarify here? Because I have a lot of people who also ask me this question. I have a friend who is a trans woman, and then your ex was a trans man. And so trans woman means that they were previously a man who has transitioned into a woman. And if they call themselves a trans man, they were a female who has transitioned into a male. So just for some clarification on that, because I know a few people get confused, like, well, what is what? If they are a trans woman, it's because they were a male before and they have transitioned into a female. And if they are a trans man, they were a woman who transitioned into a male. Now, can you give us some clarification on non-binary, please?
Okay, after I just like pick at the microaggressions within your language, if you're okay with that.
Oh, all right.
This is awesome, because what it is like very eye-opening, especially it's like things you don't know. So what you're saying is like they were a woman and now they're a man. They've transitioned into a man. That's not like necessarily, and again, I'm not trans. So this is like based on experience of like dating trans people and hearing like more. It's less about identifying as a man or a woman and more about the fact that they are in a body that doesn't suit what they are inside. So it's not like they were a man and they transitioned into a woman. It was like
They were in a male's body
that they occupy has transitioned to suit who they are. Just throwing that out there, because we don't, there's this like what's your preferred pronoun? That's a microaggression. It's not fucking preferred. Who prefers to be like, to identify as a certain way and have their external appearance be the exact opposite? So it's not preferred pronouns. What are your pronouns? period. And things that I think that none of us know based on privilege, right?
Because
Like,
we're
I'm
not,
sure.
because we don't, yeah, because we don't experience these things. So
Yeah.
for me, even saying those things, no idea that that could be offensive.
Yeah.
That being said, in the world we're in now, and I'm not picking on any gender whatsoever, in the world we're in now, I think we've gotten a little bit too sensitive about a little bit too much. But that again is my opinion.
That is,
And that's where this is why this is such a great podcast, because I have very differing opinions. I have learned a lot because I do have a trans friend, and I was family with your trans partner. And so I'm not trying to be aggressive or offensive or any of the things. It's just that for me, these are certain opinions that I have. And when people ask me for clarification, because I don't know, but I will answer because of the experiences I have. Here's the answer I have for you in that. So, okay, so go on. Let's talk about non-binary, because that's another one that is hard to clarify.
Right. I mean, basically, and again, I'm not non-binary, so I think, you know, the LGBT community is really like a spectrum of it's so inclusive of all the things, and then sometimes not. Just throwing that out there.
Yep.
And so non-binary means to each person whatever it means. Generally, it's like not identifying with either gender. You know, often people will look rather ambiguous, like it's general, it's androgynous, like there's not like a particular feminine quality, or it can be both, like people that are fluid, right? You can hear gender fluid, like today I'm feeling very feminine and I'm going to put on makeup and da 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 da. Tomorrow I'm going to fucking shave my head or take out my extensions and, you know, like shave off my eyebrows. Like it's whatever the person feels in those moments, which could also be like totally neutral, like nothing. I don't feel male, female, whatever it is. And, you know, Michael Singer speaks about this in Living Untethered. He says, you know, like get to know who you are. And that part of you of who you are is not your body. It's not your emotions. It's not your gender. That part of you, which you can call the soul, you can call the impartial witness, you can call your Buddha nature. That part of you has no fucking gender. Like a soul doesn't have a penis, right? Yeah. Or a vagina. Yeah. So we are basically that, and we present in this earth school, in these bodies, in gendered form, whatever that might be. And right now with inclusion, it's like not just assuming that you see me and that you assume I am female.
Well, and it's also really interesting because people see me, short hair, all the tattoos, the things, and I am often associated or asked if I'm a lesbian or if I'm a dyke, are often words used. Which, don't judge people based on their hair. That's like asking a guy with long hair if he's gay. Like, no, I just look really fucking awesome with short hair, so I rock short hair. So it's very interesting how we will also throw these labels onto people that you have no idea who they are or what they do. I also often get, well, you must be a tattoo artist or a hairdresser. No, actually, I'm a life coach, an addictions coach, and a bookkeeper. And when they hear the bookkeeper part, they're like, wait, what? That's not what a bookkeeper looks like. And I'm like, well, maybe you should change the way you anticipate a bookkeeper to look like. I'm not the old lady sitting at her desk anymore. I'm the tattooed girl with short hair who kills it at your bookkeeping. So it's interesting how we put these things on people because of our own opinions or own beliefs in what we've seen in the world.
Right.
So, but also there is
right here, nurse, 20 years in the emergency department and went to med school,
covered in tattoos.
Doctor.
Yeah, covered in tattoos, doing all the yoga things, like very interesting. Okay, so when you first joined the LGBTQ community, you and I had a few conversations because it was not quite what you had expected, I guess. I had no idea what it even really was, what it looked like within that community. And we had a few conversations. And one of the things I want to say that I want to bring up was just very interesting that you had said in so many ways that you were like an elite. So explain to us, if I maybe even using the wrong word, that could have been my perception of what you said. So explain to us what conversation we had that like taught us about, or taught you about what it's like to be within that community.
So have you ever heard of the Wheel of Privilege?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's the Wheel of Privilege and Power. And it's a way to explain privilege. So if you're okay, I'll just share it actually. So if you are, if you want to come and see this, then check out the either Google Wheel of Privilege and Power, or come and check out like the YouTube part. So this is it right here. And we're not going to go too deep into it because it's a whole different conversation. But the closer you are to the center, the more privilege you've had. So let's just look. White, cisgender man. Cisgender means that you are what you appear to be, kind of idea, right? Cisgender man is a man that is
who looks like a man.
Right. That is heterosexual, kind of like blah, 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 blah. Male, heterosexual, without disability, neurotypical. So this gets into like how people are with ADHD and autism and such. So neurotypical means like without any, you're typically,
issues.
Wired normal. It's a better way for normal. Stable,
okay.
Mental health, bilingual in official languages, post-secondary education, owns property, is rich, is a Canadian, this is for Canada, is a Canadian citizen, is a colonizer or a settler, and is white. Okay, so I mean, we can dive into that. Yeah.
So this is what would be considered the most privileged, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And in this thing that she's got in front of us, that if you could decide to look up, it's got like what your wealth, your citizenship, whether you're Indigenous, skin color, gender, sex, sexuality, persons with disabilities, neurodiversity, mental health, language, formal education, your housing, wealth, like, wow.
Yeah.
The things that will give you privilege and power. And it's funny because I feel like just not knowing about this lets you know how privileged you are.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay, so if we stick to, we can totally get into this at any other time. I fucking love this. I use this as part of trauma-informed teaching. But let's look at gender. And the most privileged person is a cisgender man. And then the next privileged is us, cisgendered women. Then, isn't this interesting? Trans men, because they're men. And then the least privileged, trans women and non-binary people. Okay, so then when we look at our sexuality, heterosexual is the most privileged. Then what do we have? Gay men, because again, men. Wow, right? And then lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, asexual. So, I mean, there's a lot. Asexual is like, doesn't want to have relationship, doesn't want to have sex, isn't really interested in that part. And there's more to it. Don't get me wrong. Pansexual, I've been told that that's me, that I'm pansexual, that I like, I love whatever. Now, I've heard that pansexual means you could be in love with trees and fucking dolphins and fuck them. And there are people that do that shit. And that is whatever it is. The idea that I have gotten told about being pansexual is like, I love the soul. And I like that because that is how I feel, because I don't care if you yourself are gay, straight, bi, whatever it is. And so then am I bisexual? Because am I bisexual? Because am I with like women and men? No, but yes, right? I've been with trans men. Not just one, right? I have dated lesbians. I'm not really into other bisexual women because then I know those women sleep with men and that kind of grosses me out, which is interesting, right?
Very interesting.
I know, but that's what I like. If someone says they're bisexual, it's kind of a turnoff. Now, if I met that person and then I liked them and then found out they were bisexual, would I cut them out? Like, absolutely not. That's not it. So that's kind of the idea of being pan, is that I'm just like, I'm open to the person. So it's
Okay.
interesting that, you know, the least privileged lesbian because of woman, bisexual. So I'm going to stop sharing and then share with you that, like, at that time I was dating somebody who was questioning, like, non-binary. Are they trans? Like, what are they? And so we were dating, I guess you could say. And I was sharing, like, being new to it and feeling so included in the LGBTQ community and all of that. And they said, you know, like, that's great for you. It's because you're a cisgendered bisexual woman. Like, that's it. Like, you know, when you sleep with a guy, that's fucking hot. When you sleep with a girl, my bad, that's fucking hot. When I sleep with a girl, people call me a dyke. People call me a fake man. So you're accepted. And then there's a lot of, like, discomfort. I think it's smoothing out. Again, not my experience of the trans community being included as part of LGBTQ.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
There's
was
definitely,
like
there's
a privilege.
I feel like, see, this all comes back down to the same conversation we had in last week's, or not last week's, the weeks before conversation, where we talked about what we were taught in our subconscious and how that becomes your belief. Because even though as an adult, I have made choices about how I feel about the judgments of others, and now I'm doing a course right now that also just said that judgment is actually having a thought or opinion about someone and expressing it. That's a judgment, whereas having it inside your head is not necessarily the judgment. It's not expressing it. So this was really interesting to me.
Just wait,
But
where do you hear that from?
I may or may not have heard it from this great program I'm taking for past life regression through you. Oh,
Thank
here.
you.
So within that, though, I can also see how, like, we'll come at something and be like, I'm not being judgmental, but, or even just for me, now I'm going to say this and I don't want it to come offensive, but it was like a reaction in my head. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything, but I saw a transgender female who was working for Canada Post and was wearing, she was dressed in her like she was dressed. Probably, I'm not sure now, because is the transgender, or is there still transvestites? Like, is that still a thing?
I mean, not really.
Okay. See, I don't even know these things, but okay, so she must have been a trans woman.
Not necessarily.
And see, and even that. So in this, for me though, when I initially saw, there was so many masculine pieces to it that it felt like either one, she was going through just starting this process, so still had like the facial hair stubble, still had all of the things. And in her being a woman, she was a very masculine woman. And initially I was very, like, caught off guard. And so immediately that makes me go, oh, your subconscious is talking, because in my opinion, I want you to be who you are, authentically are, no matter who you are. If you're an asshole, we actually need you to continue being an asshole because you teach us things. So I don't care who you are. I don't care what you look like. But my initial reaction was, oh shit. And then I sort of like processed the thought that I was having. So that's what I mean by I'm not trying to be offensive here. It was just that initial ego reaction inside of me was oh, holy shit. Oh shit. Something along those lines of like, whoa. And then I hope everyone is who they want to be, because that's a choice that I'm making in my conscious mind. So I just find it very interesting, the processes that we go through to find out who we are.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that's been, I think, something more lately you have explored over the last 5 years is, who am I? Who do I want to be? What does all of this mean, if anything?
It became that I actually started to resent men. So I was boy crazy. Then, I started exploring. Then I kind of went, I mean, it's not like I chased after anybody or anything. It's like these people presented. Sometimes I wasn't even like fully attracted in the beginning. It was like a grown love that was created. or happened or whatever it is. And then this deeper exploration. And then I started to be a little bit like harsh on men, like all men are this, all men are that. I even have a judgment about Latin men, right? I
Yep.
live in Costa Rica, or I spend a lot of time in Costa Rica, and it's a very machismo, they call it machismo culture, where men are kind of like, it's the patriarch, the Costa Rica is 10 to 20 years kind of behind North America, Europe. And it's very like, I mean, they have signs everywhere like no molestar, like don't just touch people, that's not allowed. They've made it illegal. You could go to jail if you just grab a woman's ass. It wasn't against the law until not that long ago. You could just walk up and grab a woman's ass and she had to put up with it. So it's
Yeah,
a
that's
different
crazy.
culture here. And it's like, it's always like tranquila, like chill the fuck out. You white women are so boring, because there's a problem with them fucking 8 different women. So
Yeah.
and this is not everybody, but I started to kind of like put it out there. Like based on my past relationships, which is actually based on my subconscious belief that I'm a fat piece of shit, I don't trust men because they've
Yeah.
hurt me.
Yeah.
And so I had a judgment about men. I had a judgment about Latin men, clearly. So I was still dating women. The only dating app I went on was like a lesbian dating app. And I was dating women in Vancouver. So I would come home, meet them. Well, I was dating women and trans men in Vancouver. And I'd come home and I meet them, and I formed some deep relationships, but it was also very difficult to be over here all the time and trying to date someone over there. So it was a lot of like
Yeah.
phone stuff. And then I met a Latin man
Yep.
who is
Yep.
bisexual, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And not when you told me that, I don't think I was surprised about that either.
Right. So here's my experience now. So I was contacted, like I was asked to come to Canada to run the yoga in a festival. I want to say the name, but I'm going to be fucking mature and not do it. Okay. To run the yoga in a festival in Canada for Pride. Okay. And I said yes. I did not confirm my flights until it was confirmed. I have the fucking Facebook message that says yes. Okay, perfect. This time, this date, here's what you're doing. Okay. I book my flight. I get there. It was September. I was staying with you. I get there and I get a message, not even from them, but from my assistant.
It was 3 days before we were supposed to go.
Well, no, a couple weeks.
Are you sure?
Yep, I am. Yep.
Okay.
And I get a message from my assistant that's like, I'm so sorry. Like, they went with somebody else. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I had met my partner in the last couple of months, and I had a couple posts on there like, this is my partner. It's his birthday. He's amazing. I love him so much. And now all of a sudden I'm not teaching at Pride. So what am I?
Yeah.
Like there's the privilege of bisexual just down the fucking tubes though, because now I don't count as queer because I'm with a man. I get it, it's confusing to other people, but like who fucking cares?
So what is the definition of queer then? Because I've heard that one a few times as well, which is the LGBTQ of it. It also has a plus mark now. But
well, let's definition of queer in the background. So strange or odd. Okay. Denoting or relating to a sexual or gender identity that does not correspond to established ideas of sexuality and gender, especially heterosexual norms.
Okay, so I feel like that does suit you in many different ways.
Yeah, that's how
as well as in relation to as well as in relation to your sexuality, for sure.
I remember telling my old best friend, we ended, and it kind of, I don't know, I had a lot of anger. So when I was still on the island, Vancouver Island, with my family, I messaged her and she came over for the day and we went out and we talked about like this 15-year friendship that we had had that ended, and that then we didn't really talk anymore, and we did some like repairing, and then I shared like I like this woman, I want to be with her. She also wasn't super surprised, but she did say, so how do you identify? As she was leaving, I was like, what do you mean I identify as Colin? She's like, no, but like are you bisexual? And I was like, I don't know what to say here, because nothing has changed about me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna fuck a woman. Like that's it, like nothing else
As
is
well
there.
as men.
Yeah, what do you mean? How do I identify? I remember being like off guard, yet it was a respectful question for her to ask me. And then she said, what do I tell people? I don't know, dude. Whatever you want. I'm bi, I guess. I'm bi.
I feel like bi is not the right word though, because bi means two, right?
Yeah, that's why I
And being
identify
that,
as queer.
yes, yes, because you don't fit to the normal
Yeah.
standards of what people think, and you're not heterosexual. So I feel like that's quite fitting, and that's a good one. Yeah, it's such an interesting conversation, because I know for me there's been a lot of learning within this as we've gone through this. Is there any misconceptions that you want to address or debunk? That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
In the LGBTQ as you know it. And then you guys, you're welcome to comment below as you would like to clarify between even our understandings of it. But tell me some misconceptions about bisexuality that you feel, if there is any, that you feel you would like to address within this.
Yeah, I mean, this comes up a couple things, and I felt like, when's an appropriate time to say this? So once I opened up that, I loved it. And all of a sudden, I mean, like, I was putting out the vibe, and I was like, it was great. I was getting a lot of attention, and I really enjoyed it, which is why I think I stayed in the dating of women and stuff for some time, is because I really started to trust them. And it's like, it's what my original temporary girlfriend had told me was like, that's the essence of a woman, is that they understand you because they are a woman, and it's something that a man will never get. And I felt that deep down inside.
Yeah.
I must also say that like the partner that I have currently, I feel seen, felt heard at a deep core level, because I think that he understands women better than any man I've ever met. So
and what makes him so let me just quickly interrupt. What makes it so that you think, or what work has he done, or what has come to him that has made him understand this level in a different way?
Yeah, see, I don't know how much I can share, but he did tell me like, feel free to share, because he's pretty open too. So
yeah,
he and
if it was him and I sitting here, he would tell me as well.
Yeah,
so let's dig into that.
He has a history of abuse in his life, and his dad was machismo, and didn't like abuse him as much, and he was kind of raised more by his mom and his sister. And that like, even when we met and he was like, you like that? What he was doing to me, he's like, you can thank my sister, she made me go to a pussy eating course when I was 17 years old. Like, so he was like, and she would always say like, don't do this, or make sure you do this, or blah 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 blah, and like really instilled some female values upon him. And so I don't think he's ever been, though he's like done his thing with sleeping with a bunch of women and whatever. I don't think he's ever been like a typical dude. And I say that, and see, now that could be offensive to a typical dude.
Yeah.
But like, he's not the kind of person that like, just because a chick walks by means he has to look, or that he wants to fuck her, or that he's gonna get a hard on. Like, it's like he has this deeper respect for women that I haven't really experienced in a man, in a cisgendered man.
Interesting.
So when I started getting the attention, I loved it. And I actually met a woman at the gym, and we started to talk. And I thought I knew her because I had seen her standing outside of this care home that was right by my house. I had seen her many times. And it turns out actually they were twins. This woman in the
Oh,
gym and then this person I saw all the time, they were different. And so I was like, that's so weird. They're twins and they're gay. And I told the girl that I was dating at the time, and she said, yeah, babe, because it's genetic. And I didn't know that. I didn't know it was genetic. She's like, well, how do you think that like this is okay? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't know anything. I'm 39 years old and I'm discovering this. So I don't
yeah.
know. And she's like, yeah, babe, it's yeah. So then she spent a little bit of time kind of like teaching me about that, because historically, right, you get like you go and God like beats it out of you, or you before like the God work, or even after the God work, was the mental health facilities that people were checked into because they were gay.
Yep.
And it's like this idea that you can just like turn it on and off,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not
I mean, you can. It's called being fake or being real. There's your
fair.
switch.
Fair. Yeah. So for me, that's a big misconception. And then the other parts have just been like, yeah, that LGBTQIA plus is a very inclusive community. I mean, it is and it isn't. There's sometimes like in any community, there's like the elite. But what I do know is if I'm somewhere and I see a flag, I feel safer. I'm in a country right now that is actually LGBTQ friendly, that has legal gay marriage, and that feels safer when I sit in. I know that one time my partner and I were driving in a shuttle, and we were there with queer people. I mean, it was clear and obvious. It took 2 seconds to watch the two women holding hands and blah blah blah. Anyways, I remember we all just like got along immediately. So at the same time, it's like any community. It's like we found each other and there's safety in it. There's safety in the numbers. And so I appreciate that, which is why I started to focus on queer yoga. Right. And not just that, like inclusivity is it's not just being gay, it's being a bigger bodied person. It's being an older person. It's like
Being any
these,
kind of non-typical.
which is now known as marginalized. Yoga teacher trainings, and this is a total side shoot that I can always get lost on, but it's like, who's in yoga right now? 80% thin, white, young, middle class women. That's who's there. Teacher trainings, yeah, go on Instagram and watch people doing fucking hollow back handstands and fucking birds of paradise and a bunch of bullshit things that like aren't that easy to do. They make it look so easy. There you go. There's that thin woman in her fucking sports bra that doesn't have a stretch mark on her body. And this is where you're going to go you're going to learn yoga from her. You're going to learn to be a teacher from her. Cool. That started to just drive me nuts. And then the more that I'm like dating women, the more that they're commenting when they look on my Instagram. Wow. So everybody in your class just looks the same. Hey, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, but also that's all inclusive because you don't say, oh, you're a white woman who's young and skinny and da 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 da. You can't come. You're like, if you want to come and learn about yourself, please do.
yes.
But also, those of you that are bigger bodied women that are non-typical, please come and learn about yourself as well. So, okay. So I feel like we should end this off with this one last question to you.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone who is exploring or coming to terms with their own bisexuality or sexuality in the context of the LGBTQ community? What would you say to those people that want to come out and tell people how they are and who they really are, but are struggling?
Oh my God.
Because you didn't really have that struggle, but you've been authentically you. So how would you encourage those people?
I'm not going to expose the person that came out to me. When this person came out to me, I was just like so happy for them and was like, explore. That's what I said. The other part is like I do think that like in anything that I do, imposter syndrome is a big part of like that rears its ugly head, you know, that I'm not good enough part down there. So I do always feel like an imposter. Like, who the fuck am I to tell anybody, like, give anybody advice about coming out? And then sometimes I hear like, you're someone who's come out. Like,
Yeah.
what, trust yourself.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if someone was telling me like I don't know what to do, I mean, I do think that safety is a thing. You know, we are like in North America, in many parts of North America, we are safe to be who we are. I'm safe to, you know, do a podcast, do this, do that, but that's not everybody's experience. So I do think it's like specific to each person and the situation that they're in, because if it could be unsafe, then err on the side of caution. And here's another piece that I do say to my clients, because when they start to do the honesty thing, they start to overshare. And they'll say, I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm oversharing right now. And I'm like, there's no such thing as oversharing, but there is, because you know what? Not everybody gets to hear your fucking story. Not everybody has a right or deserves to hear deeper, the most authentic, vulnerable parts of you, because they're assholes. So not everybody needs to know. For you to be authentically you, you don't have to fucking tell every single person you've ever met that you are gay now. Like, whatever that looks like. It's like, no, the like what was demonstrated here, the people that know you know that you're not gay now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And from what I'm hearing from what you've just said is basically, if they are concerned about safety, that they need to find an LGBTQ community to come out to first, where they can feel safe in that. And once they feel safe in that, they might be able to come out to other people, because once they feel safe in one place, they may feel safe in other places. And have a safe place to go back to if it's not safe when they come out.
Yes.
So very interesting. Well, I enjoyed this conversation. Not that we haven't had it a time or two before, but I hope you guys all learned something from this conversation. And I hope that you'll join us next week again when we come out with more of our amazing, deep, vulnerable, hard to have conversations. So thank you, Lynn, for exposing yourself on this one. And we will be in touch, you guys. See you soon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us on this spirited journey today.
We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of self-improvement with us. Two sisters who found their own unique paths.
Remember, life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's how we embrace them that makes all the difference.
So whether you're on your yoga mat, exploring mindfulness, or simply navigating life's twists and turns, always keep that spirit and sass alive.
We are Colin and Nerdy Lockoff, and we're here to remind you that happiness and abundance are within reach.
Stay connected with us on social media and keep those questions and stories coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, beautiful souls, keep doing the work, keep sharing your experiences, and keep living a life that's authentically you.
And never forget to add a little extra sass to your day.
Spirit and sass, always.